Hi and welcome to another episode of Pennsylvania Voter Information Network. This is Larry DeMarco with the Philadelphia Bar Association Chancellor's Forum District Attorney race. Today we have the profile and answers of Beth Grossman. Her website is below where you can get more information about her and her candidacy. She is running for district attorney because she is committed to seeking justice and improving the quality of life for all Philadelphians. She began her work as an attorney in the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office as a full-time attorney in September of 1993. She served in the trial, juvenile, law, investigations, and narcotics division in that office. Her experience includes trying hundreds of criminal cases, defending the District Attorney's Office in employment and civil rights cases in federal court, and investigating and prosecuting municipal corruption. From February 2005 through January 2007, she was the Assistant Chief of the Municipal Court Unit and was responsible for training new prosecutors. Beginning in 2007, she became Chief of the Public Nuisance Task Force, where she worked with community members and groups and community development corporations all over the city to address and abate public nuisance and quality of life issues. She also worked on a 2-year grand jury investigation of a fatal warehouse fire in Kensington that resulted in a tragic loss of 2 firefighters. In April 2015, she left the DA's office to become Chief of Staff at the Philadelphia Department of License and Inspections, where she oversaw the operations in the department. She also worked with the executive staff implementing several significant initiatives, including stricter demolition contractor licensing and permit regulations, and improving technological innovations that will allow the department to identify imminent dangerous properties with greater efficiency and predictability. Here's Beth at the Chancellor's Forum.
The role of the district attorney is to promote public safety in the city, and I think that it has to share information with ICE regarding dangerous individuals so they don't return to the community, many of which are communities where there are undocumented residents who don't want to be victimized twice, and they don't want to fear the threat of being reported by the DA's office because of their status. The DA's office will play no role with regard to the status of an undocumented resident, be it eyewitness, be it a victim. That is not our role, but we have an obligation to protect the public. And it goes for serious violent crimes, but every case, again, it needs to be looked at individually, because if you have somebody who has been convicted of DUI, 5 or 6 times, then there's a good chance that's going to happen, even though he may be, it is a misdemeanor crime. So absolutely, and I agree with Mr. Shabazz, anybody's immigration status will not be used as leverage with regards to dealing, cooperating. It's inappropriate, and it is not our role.
Ms. Grossman.
Thank you. Anytime somebody is wrongly convicted, that is an absolute heartbreaking tragedy, and it should cease being an adversarial process, but one in which we are on the same side, because that has to be rectified. If I were DA, I would certainly have no qualms about having someone like the fabulous Ms. Bluestein come in and give us generalized training and look for people outside to hire as consultants to look at particular cases. I think that lends a fair eye, because I will admit, culture needs to be changed in the DA's office. The pendulum has changed, and it's time to look at justice from another perspective. But additionally, I recently started practicing criminal defense, and I think we also need to do heavy lifting at the front end, where defense attorneys might come in and say, look, I have some information that exonerates my client, and instead of getting our back up and being like, oh, no, maybe the right thing to do is do the heavy lifting at the beginning before somebody gets wrongly convicted. So I would like to have a group of senior attorneys when information comes in that way to take a look before somebody is incarcerated, for what turns out to be decades.
Ms. Grossman.
I think that there's always room for improvement in every type of situation, and I think I would actually be a proponent of maybe working with the Defenders Association or the VIP program to at least maybe have a courtroom advocate in the room to speak with and maybe guide pro se respondents with regard to the process. Also working with the First Judicial District in a way to streamline it so people don't have to needlessly come to court over and over again, to make that a little less burdensome. What I will point out is, and as we all know, is that we are in a giant opioid heroin crisis, and I also am aware that people in neighborhoods suffer from drug dealing properties. So it is an effective tool to promote public safety, and that part of it must not and cannot be forgotten.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Ms. Grossman.
Complete agreement in decriminalizing it. We have an overburdened criminal justice system, and you have to figure out what are the best use of resources. Just like on one end, what are our resources and how are they being spent with regard to death penalty cases? You have to be smart about that because those cost millions of dollars, just like multiple cases of criminalizing marijuana. The same thing, why are we doing this? Doesn't make sense. And I do not think other types of crime at this point should be legalized. And with regard to those who are in possession of drugs, addiction is not a crime. And I agree with many things set up here where it's time to look at treatment. But again, it is always important and incumbent to go after those who are the heavy, big dealers, suppliers who are bringing it in here, as well as the doctors who are really, prescribing things freely. And as regard for marijuana, I don't want to, it's sort of like an open container violation. Just keep it in the house, okay?
Ms. Grossman.
With regard to low-level drug dealers and mandatory minimums, no, that's not something I would enforce because many lower-level drug dealers are also addicts. And so that is part of the problem where it might be more appropriate for treatment, resources, things of that nature. However, because we are dealing with a very big drug epidemic that is an absolute health crisis, I think mandatory minimums are absolutely important for heavy-duty drug dealers, including those running our pill mills, improper prescriptions, those really bringing in bulk, huge amounts of narcotics. I think that's where mandatory minimums must come into play.
Ms. Grossman.
With protecting the safety of victims and eyewitnesses, it is of absolute paramount importance. Philadelphia is often known for where, snitches get stitches, and it's a difficult epidemic. And we have to take their safety. It's the most paramount importance. It's the kind of thing where what the statute permits actually is that forfeiture money can be used to relocate victims and eyewitnesses. That's something that's a resource because if somebody is brave enough to step up and say, all right, I will testify, but I'm afraid that I'm going to get killed, then it is incumbent upon the district attorney's office to ensure that that does not happen. So we must exercise all resources, including that of forfeiture funds, to make sure that this does not happen.
Ms. Grossman.
I think like prosecutors, police officers need to be held to a higher standard of accountability. And if, information starts to come in, then I think it is incumbent upon the DA's office to start pulling those cases, looking at them, either investigating itself or referring to the proper law enforcement agency. I will say with regard to large-scale drug dealers, I was chief of the dangerous drug offender unit for a while in the DA's office, and we do, in fact, are successful in prosecuting larger scale drug dealers because we cooperate, and that's another important thing of cooperating with other law enforcement agencies, including DEA. So, those cases are successful. They take longer. You have to invest a lot, but we are very successful with them.
Ms. Grossman.
I am so proud of my career as a public servant. I spent 21 and a half years in the district attorney's office. I served in every division. I know how that office should be run. I know how it should not be run. I prosecuted municipal corruption. I prosecuted police officers. I spent 8 years as chief of the Public Nuisance Task Force Unit, going out and helping communities creatively deal with nuisances such as drug houses, nuisance bars, brothels, speakeasies, and to find creative ways to deal with this. Because when you can improve a block, everything improves. Property values go up. Public safety improves, and people become more vested in their neighborhood, and that makes a big difference. And a nuisance in one neighborhood differs from another, but I've really learned and gotten a sense of neighborhoods all over the city. Also, for management experience, I spent 2 years assistant chief of the Municipal Court Unit, training new DAs. I spent 8 years as chief of the Public Nuisance Task Force, and I spent 1 year, and I must thank Mr. Negrin for hiring me when he was managing director to be chief of staff of licensing and inspection. So that gave me the experience, the overall experience to run a big, large city department. That being said, like when we were little, there's one thing that makes me different from everyone else, and I am the lone Republican candidate. So I think I need to let all of you know, and I think it's clear that we have a problem of a one-party system where there's too much public official corruption, and we have a problem with that.